Welcome to the Use Your Inside Voice podcast. I'm Heather Dawn. Let's kick it off with a dance party. Hello and welcome to the Use Your Inside Voice podcast. I'm Heather Dawn, and I'm really very honored and excited to be joined by my good friend, Julie Hatfield-Still.
Hi, thanks for having me, Heather. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Of course. All right. So Julie and I were talking before I hit the record button, and we were discussing some different things. Actually, she was coaching me, which happens often. And she was like, Heather, I feel like I should interview you for this podcast. And immediately my body said, ugh. And I thought, okay, well, that's the answer. Like, this needs to happen in this way. But before we do that, uh, with the reason why is because she's like, people need to know like how this podcast was born, and she's been here for the whole like conceptualization and the incubation and the stalling and the procrastination, and then the like now we're in motion. So she knows intimately how this all came to be. But before we get into that, I want to talk about a little bit how Julie and I met, or we can share together. We actually were put into a weekly accountability meeting group um, through Bob Heilig's. What was the name of his program?
I don't even remember the name.
I don't remember the name either.
We were in.
Yes, but we got lumped into a group together randomly, and with three other women, I think. And at the end of his program, four of us decided that we wanted to continue meeting on the regular. One in New Zealand, or sorry, South Africa, not New Zealand, South Africa, one in San Diego, California. Julie and I are both on the East Coast, and we kept meeting. And I think initially we were meeting weekly, weren't we? And then we decided that's too much. And so now once a month, the four of us meet, and we spend an hour, a little bit more than an hour together every month, and we just sort of update each other on our lives. But because Julie and I are somewhat close in proximity to one another, we've been able to develop an even closer friendship, and work together in different ways because we could see each other in person. So Julie, you want to tell the listeners a little bit about some of the things that you have done that I've gotten to be a participant in?
Yeah, of course. And my gosh, how amazing that just by design, we were put in that room together. And, it's powerful when you keep meeting with somebody month after month for years and years.
Yeah.
And it just made me think of just the power of people and the power of the right people in your corner. And I'm just grateful, Heather, that you're one of them in my corner as well. And a little bit about me and my background. I'm just a small town girl from upstate New York. I grew up on a dairy farm, and I was a multi-sport athlete. Went a little ways away for college. And I always knew that I wanted to help people. I loved coaching, 5-year-olds all the way up to 75-year-olds. So I would just say I am a coach through and through, and I've done it in a lot of different capacities. So from sports coaching to business coaching to life coaching to health coaching to it's just one of my favorite modalities because it is highly activating, it is forward thinking, and it is proactive in a lot of ways. So in the last couple of years, we've been able to put together some retreats where we can come belly to belly and do that. And that's been an amazing opportunity to get to meet Heather in person. But in essence, I love activating people towards exactly what they are designed for. I believe if you can see it in your mind, we can create it in the reality.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many times where, especially as women, we're massively creative and we have these great ideas that we are the only people that see them. And
Mm,
we are the only ones that create those pictures in our minds, and we're too afraid to share them, right? Because we might be considered crazy or kind of off the mark, or hey, that's impossible. No one's ever done it. And those are the people that I love getting in the room with, because I truly believe that if you can see it, we can design it, we can create it. So
yeah.
at its essence, in my coaching, that's what I really focus on, is bringing those visions to reality for people, activating them in a direction that really inspires them and is aligned with who they authentically are and who they truly want to be and the impact they want to leave.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a stake in the ground, raise my hand and say, like, that's your superpower. Your superpower is to listen to what someone is saying. And even if they don't exactly say the words, like you're like, what I'm hearing is this is important to you. And let's talk about that. And then you're able to activate is such a perfect word for what you do, because after just two or three really great questions from you, it's almost like, oh my gosh, yes, now, like, yes, I want to, now I'm ready. Now it's like in my cells and I'm ready to go. Um, but forget being able to spend like an entire weekend. I'll never forget the first retreat that you put together. It was sort of I don't even know that you had like a major plan for what it was necessarily gonna wind up looking like. There was some structure to it, but you gathered together. It was a small group of us, and we had seven that first time, I think.
Yep.
And in this beautiful, wraparound porch, log cabiny type place in upstate New York on one of the Finger Lakes. And, just good food, just a very like calming structure, where we had quiet time in the morning, and then there was like a morning meeting where we talked about our intentions, and then a lot of time for each of us to sort of do what we needed to do. And I just remember being able to meet you in person, first of all, was like such a treat. Didn't we like hug tackle each other?
Pretty much. After
Yeah.
years of this context, right? We're like, you do exist. You have a
Yeah. You're
balloon.
not just in a Zoom room. So that was amazing. And you brought into the room some women that that from that retreat, I'm still like so bonded and close to. It was special. And then your second retreat for me, I mean, I don't know. I was going through a process in my life, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit, just because I don't think that people I want to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. I don't think that people allow themselves the opportunity to really like feel and sink into some of the more difficult feelings to have and to hold. And my healing process, my healing, I don't like necessarily using the word journey because it's so like cliche, but it is a freaking journey. It takes twists and turns, and it's peaks and valleys, and it's hard, and you want to quit, and then you don't. But at the time of your second retreat, it was springtime of earlier this year. Um, and you could not have known this. You could not have known this. You could not have like predicted that any of this would happen. You did not know what the house was like. You saw pictures of it. You booked it based on feedback that we wanted more light, because that wraparound porch took away a lot of the light that came in. It was a wonderful little cozy fall cabin that we did October last year. But we requested more light, and so you delivered. And this house, you guys, listeners, I call it I think I dubbed it the grounding house because that's how it felt for me. There was natural stone in the house. There was running water. There was a creek that ran along one side, a lake on the other side. It was tucked away. No matter what room you were in, you could hear running water. A lot of natural elements in the house, and I felt like when I stepped into that house, the house was just holding me, and I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to be any certain type of way. The house was holding me. And the beautiful part for me during that retreat was that the women that were there were also holding me. And let me explain what I mean by that. I spent the entire retreat crying. Okay. And right, Julie? Not just crying. Like it was the like deep grief that was coming up. And I don't believe that it could have come up. It would not have come up had I not already been previously doing the work, number one, and being open to digging down and excavating the emotions out. But also it would not have been able to come up if it weren't for that beautiful home and the grounding energy that it had, and then all of the women that were present in that space. Because there was not one woman there that tried to stop me from crying. There was not one woman there that was trying to fix me or, fix the problem. They just let me have an experience. And I tapped into some deep, deep, deep grief, and I let it go. And it was beautiful. And Julie put that group together. She facilitated that whole thing, and it was an absolute gorgeous experience. From the facilitator's standpoint, I know I wasn't the only person at the retreat, and my experience was different than everybody else's because there were some really cool things that happened. In fact, why don't you talk about what was born for you at that retreat? Because something really big was born, right?
Well, I think that retreat for both of us, Heather, was very pivotal in what we decided to ultimately create next. And I kind of want to go back to some of the things you were saying and just anchor the audience in some key components of activation that so many of us miss the mark on. Like if anybody is listening and they just feel stuck or they feel stagnant or like they're settling in life, right? And they're like, man, there's more for me. Just lean in with me just a minute.
Yeah.
There are some key factors here, which as a facilitator of these containers, and I call them containers, right? So it might be Zoom, might be a group coaching call, it might be a one-to-one, it may be a retreat setting, that your environment matters.
Mm.
If you are in an environment that is literally life sucking, like it's taking your breath out of you, it's fatiguing you, you have control over that. We can choose to change our environment. It's not always easy, right? But sometimes just the awareness, like, oh, you know what? My environment isn't supportive of what I want to accomplish in life or the life I want to live. Sometimes it looks like just stepping away for a weekend retreat, right? It's not even changing your environment completely. It's actually getting in the room of an environment that is supportive of you, which is what I think some of the beautiful things happen in those environments. The second, the people.
Yeah.
Your community is the catalyst for activation. It's either energizing you, right? Or it's fatiguing you. Often I have yet to see where it's either holding you back or propelling you forward.
Right.
Generally speaking, there's not much of an in between. You're either moving or you're standing. Sometimes you're moving slowly, right? Sometimes you're moving a little bit quicker.
Right.
Okay, so I think there's two things that you mentioned there that are so key to anchor right now is the power of your community and the people around you. And sometimes we can't change the people in our periphery, but we can step away for a season, even a few days. And in that, there's a lot of power. We get refilled, we get rejuvenated, we get clarity. Okay, and to that point, what's created on the other side of some of the chaos, right, is clarity. oftentimes it's conviction. Sometimes it is a new baby of creation. Okay. And I think that's what happened, Heather, for us this year, is we collectively had been through our own process
Yes.
to come to a point of clarity and conviction around what was actually next for us. We had been seeing it for years. How many years have you thought of doing this podcast?
I know that in some iteration, it's probably about a year and a half. There's also a group coaching program that is still being born. It's being born right now. The podcast just came out first. But yeah, a couple of years I've been talking about this at this point. And I think on some level, I've always felt like I had something to say and just didn't feel like I was allowed to. And I don't know if it's the gift of midlife, or if it's the all of the healing that I've been working on, and the inward focus to kind of dig deep and figure out what's going on here. But it's not a secret that well, I don't know if that's not the word I want to use. The title of my podcast was actually born at that spring retreat, because I was sharing with the ladies how, I've always felt that my voice, no one wanted to hear what I had to say, and that what I had to say wasn't important. And I've gotten even more clarity on that in the last 6 to 9 months, that blows my mind. But it's because I started digging and trying to figure out, like, why do I feel that way? And I was telling the ladies a story of when I was a young girl, my grandma was a teacher, and she used to tell me specifically, Heather, use your inside voice, because I was a loud kid. And I don't know, I probably heard it many times from her, but one time in particular, it must have just dropped in, and what I heard was something different. What I believed about what she said was something different. And I kind of, I took,
When did you start to believe as a result of hearing that message over and over?
I started to believe, and can I just say this? I love my grandma, and I know she never meant that. This is not what she meant, right? However, as an 8, 9-year-old impressionable child, I internalized that message, and I did not actually discover until 40 years later, as I'm doing all of this work, oh my gosh, I took that message as a young 8, 9-year-old girl, and somewhere inside of me, I began to say, no one wants to hear what I have to say. Be quiet. Use your inside voice. Shh. Like, what you have to say isn't important. And I've carried that like undercurrent through my entire adult life. And what's wild about that is it's not even true, first of all. But our little inner person, the 8, 9-year-old girl then becomes my inner child, right? And my inner child believes that to be true. And so what do I do as an adult? I start seeking validation in outward things, because I don't believe inwardly that what I have to say is important. And so those of you that might be listening to this podcast who have known me my whole life are probably thinking, what? Like, she's so confident. She's so accomplished. She was always in leadership roles, and she likes to sing at church, and, just, she's so outgoing. A lot of that, and it's hard to admit, it's a hard thing to say, but the truth is, a lot of that was me proving to myself that what I had to say was important. And if I'm really honest, I can go back in time and I can look at times when I was in places of leadership where it was not sure, I was a good leader, and I can stand up in front of a group and I can lead, but my motive behind it was not to, oh, this is hard. This actually hurts to say out loud. My motive was more coming from a place of proving to myself that I was worthy and seeking validation from other people to tell me so, rather than just knowing it. And I have a feeling that the second half of my life is going to look so different in how I show up because of that knowledge, and because I no longer am going to be sitting in a place where I need to prove to anyone that what I have to say is important, because I'm just like, little Heather knows. And I mean, it took 40 years for me to wake up and realize this. So that's how the podcast is born, because I was telling the story, and I don't even remember which one of you it was in the room said, that's your podcast title. I think it was Sarah. That's your podcast title. Use your inside voice. And it was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And because there's a double meaning, right?
There's a double meaning, and it means something to you, right? And at the end of the day, I think we can all resonate on some level with being stomped down, quieted.
Yes.
As women, you sit there and you behave, and there are some of these stereotypes about women when they use a bold voice, right? They may be called intimidating. They may be, off the mark. Like, there's just all of these, I think, preconceived notions about vocal, powerful, amazing women. And what I see in this, Heather, is your ability to take, right, our past experiences and actually provide a platform for women to speak and scream from the rooftops what they've quite literally been told not to say or do for most of their life. And that is really so much power, and I think so much liberation. I mean, share a little. I'm so curious about this. Now we're kind of flipping roll.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm curious for you, what has been, so I know when we really create from a space of vulnerability, right? Because it's really easy to call a podcast something very vanilla, right? Vanilla for you, right? It doesn't really attach here, but this attaches here for you.
Yeah, it attaches here.
Right? So I imagine that when you get on these podcasts and when you're considering your next person that you're going to bring in, like, there's some internal stuff that is also involved in this entire process. What's come up for you as you've started to roll out your podcast? And, have you come up against any barriers or resistances as a result of this being so connected to your heart?
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay. So, you and I have a mutual, beautiful mutual friend named Hang. She lives in Hawaii, and she's a pretty special soul who will be a podcast guest in the future. We already have a date. Well, we have a 2025 as our date. So in 2025, she's like the busiest person, and she's so good about protecting her time. So she's like, reach out to me in 2025. We'll get it done. She actually encouraged me to make a list of 100 podcast guests. And when she said that, I was like, ugh, that's a lot. And she said, Heather, dream, like, who would you want to talk to if you could talk to anybody? And so, oh my gosh, I had so much fun making this list of 100 people. And, there's some famous people on that list that I'm coming for them eventually. But what that did is it showed me that there are a lot of people that I could talk to. And it opened up all of these possibilities. And then I went on to a platform of a group that I'm involved with. And I basically said, hey guys, by way of accountability, I'm letting you know that I'm launching my podcast on November 22nd, 2024. And I have committed to record 10 episodes in advance of the launch so that when I launch, I can launch 3 episodes, and then I'll be launching one every week after that. This is the person that I want to talk to is someone who really is has a big, bold something to offer in the world and is using their voice to make a difference in the world. Is that you? And if so, when are you available? And I gave like 3 different times. And I had such an overwhelming response from this container that I'm a part of. And it was just like, oh crap. Okay, we're doing this, So then I just started scheduling interviews and I just started recording interviews. And then I hit a point where there was some stuff going on in my family life where scheduling wise, like I couldn't be doing podcast episodes. Like my mom was coming into town because my daughter was going to be in the lead for her school musical. And I wanted to like put my attention there. And what happened was my momentum stopped. And then once the high of all of that and your third retreat was lumped in there. And even at that retreat, I thought, oh, I'm going to interview Julie and I'm going to interview, one of the other gals that's there. And that just wasn't what happened. I had some other things to process during that retreat. And I was stuck for the whole first day, basically. And I needed that grounding house once again to hold me and go through another process. And then when I came home from that retreat and had all the excitement of the musical and all of that, my mom came into town and then she left. I basically face planted for a couple of days and came up against a lot of really intense emotions. To the point where, you know what? Screaming into a pillow and pleading like, why can I just not be released from this? And a lot came up. And uh, thankfully, I am in some containers with, groups of people who, like you said before, it's the people who you surround yourself with. It matters. And I knew that it was a safe place to share. And so this was just yesterday. In fact, I was able to process through some of that. I got on a call with my accountability partner, which, anyone that's listening, if you are in a process, if you're in a healing process yourself, I really encourage that you get yourself an accountability partner that you can reach out to whenever you need to, because they are like angels on earth. If you're doing this healing process on your own and you are like absorbing podcasts and listening to books, those are all amazing ways to like move forward. And I would also say, get a life coach, get into a container in a group coaching program if that works for you. I personally have a very strong belief that healing happens in community. And it does for me. Like it absolutely does for me. I cannot do it on my own.
I share real quick just on that.
Yeah, please.
So books, podcasts, workshops, webinar, they expand the mind. Coaching changes the life.
Yeah.
And it's not always so coaching, counsel, mentoring, but like you said, community, right? So coming back to some of those anchor points, if you want to get unstuck, or if you want to create that thing, that vision that's always been ruminating inside of you, we must surround ourselves, community, we must find the environment, create the environment, and we must solicit counsel, coaching, mentoring, people accountability.
Yeah.
Like, I believe others don't hold us accountable. You hold you accountable. But when you start vocalizing, right, and using that inside voice, that's when someone can just simply ask you, hey, did you do the thing? And if you're an authentic, integrous person, you're gonna feel like, hey, you know what, I want to do the thing. It's time to do the thing. So just to anchor that, Heather, I think it's so important. And I don't think enough of us utilize the resources that are out there to support us in just activating our souls moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree. For me, there's no way that I would be able to have done any of the healing that I've done if it weren't for the containers that I chose into and for the people that I chose to surround myself with and for souls like you who we just connected and you know, I know I can call you at any moment and say, "Hey, do you have 8 minutes? Like I'm stuck." And it probably in 3 minutes you could get me unstuck because it's your superpower.
Build your dream team. Okay.
Yes.
So there's a concept that we talk about in Beyond the Game Alliance, which is my nonprofit working with collegiate athletes. And it's one of the most important concepts we cover. It's called building your dream team.
Mhm.
So in sport terms, we literally stack our rosters. Okay.
Mm.
And Heather is somebody who's on my roster and I'm on her roster. Find other people
Yeah.
to put in the lineup. And when you need them, do not be afraid to say, I'm putting you in. Can we
Yeah.
jump on a call for 8 minutes? Can we jump on a call? I need your brain. I need your skill. I need your talents. Okay. Because as women, when we can contribute, and men as well, when we can contribute our unique skill sets, assets, talents into the world, it comes back to us in fulfillment. We just don't
Yeah.
get to do that enough if we are in our current environments, maybe that aren't activating for us. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to share the importance of building your dream team long after you are removed from school, college, athletics, whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. And I love the athletic, I love everything goes back to, team activate, that Julie, we got sidelined, because this Beyond the Game Alliance that you have started, that was born at the spring retreat where I was grieving and crying and sobbing and being held by the house and by the people. You were giving birth to Beyond the Game Alliance.
Very, very interesting retreat, wasn't it?
It was an incredible retreat. To me, it was exactly what it needed to be for each person that was there. And of course, you and I are two of the six people that were there. So, when I have the rest of them on to talk about it, like they can discuss what happened for them. But I want you to tell the listeners more about this Beyond the Game Alliance because it's incredible. And I'm just gonna like put a bookmark here that you and I are going to get on and do another whole episode in the future about this in particular because you're in the beginning stages, and I just know that this is going to be a massive thing moving forward. And so, tell us
Well, I think it's so
about
fun
your
to
baby.
kind of like our journeys are so parallel, but they are so different. And myself, I also went through a season of just really connecting to my inside game, right? My inner voice. And, I've written books, I've put on retreats, I've coached for years in different contexts. I even did high ticket sales for a season. I've started and stopped multiple businesses, right? And as that journey it really unfolded, and as I got older, I kept feeling, Heather, like there was more. I was
Mm,
still playing small. And I
mm,
wonder how many people listening have had that thought go through their mind, like, I kind of feel like I'm playing small. And for me, the impact was small. Most of my impact had a shelf life of maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple years.
mm,
And for me, that just wasn't what I believe I'm put on this earth to do and be and leave behind. So the retreat that we're talking about, and I love that we're talking about these retreats, and I'm going to encourage everybody, like, you don't have to go to a retreat to retreat. Right.
True.
So sometimes it's just going in, right? And taking a step back and just connecting in a different way. So that can be done in a lot of different environments. So, the retreats themselves and my ability to actually disconnect and to reconnect allowed me to actually come to a space of clarity, something that had been ruminating for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm a collegiate athlete, a former collegiate athlete. I still work in the space. So I was witnessing a lot of turbulence in that space, not to mention kids at the top of their game, making irreversible decisions at the pinnacle of their life. This became a problem for me several years ago. And that's where I really started to delve into the research and my understanding. But Heather, I'm only one woman.
Yes.
And this was a really big problem I was seeing.
Yes.
So I pushed it aside. Because in my mind, I'm only one woman. How can I make this work?
Right.
That was about 2 years ago. At that retreat, I mean, almost weekly, I'd wake up and be like, God, there's something I can do, right? With my network, with all that I've built, like I can do something in this space. I don't know what. At that retreat, on the heels of a lot of healing myself, a lot of pursuing myself, a lot of understanding the life that I want to ultimately create, and getting over a lot of the stuff that was holding me back, right? The vision came into focus, right? And what I think about is like a magnifying glass it's cloudy when you're away, but as you zoom in, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden it just comes into focus. And I was like, there it is. And what I realized is a lot that was holding me back is, one, I couldn't do it alone. Right? I'm one woman. I couldn't do it alone. The millions that we're going to impact couldn't be done alone. Secondly, I needed to find a way to fund these athletes, right? Being one woman, I didn't have the millions. I don't have the millions it's going to take to fund the amount of athletes we want to fund.
Right.
So the clarity that came was, it's a nonprofit. I have a board. I have providers, right? This is not a one-man show. The other thing that came into clarity is this has to outlive Julie.
Legacy.
In order for it to outlive me, right? And that my kids, if they decide to play collegiate sport, it's a advantage. It has to eliminate me. Let me tell you, that's some work. When you realize everything I've done up to this point has been led by me, and now I've got to let go of that. That's the work that took some time for me.
Sure.
But in time, with the willingness, right? As I led other people in their own clarity, in their own overcoming, I was able to walk alongside them authentically and in integrity, because if I'm going to preach it, I better be also doing it.
Yes.
Right? So all that to say, at that retreat, Beyond the Game Alliance was born. That was April 21st. By May 8th, we had an established nonprofit.
That's incredible.
And we've been rolling ever since. And it's not at all what I could have envisioned, but I am allowing it to be what it needs to be. And it's shaping up to be pretty incredible. And this is truly the business model and the business and the mission and the vision that I can't not do.
Yeah.
So I think when we start to really focus in on our inside voice and our calling and we can do a whole nother podcast on discovering what that purpose is. I don't believe we find a purpose. It finds us. And so that's a whole nother lane. But once you get clarity in that, it's easy to take action. It's easy to stay in momentum. It's easy to continue to pursue. It doesn't mean life doesn't throw you curveballs, because it surely has. It just means your heart, just like with this podcast for you, our hearts are led in this, right? This is led by heart and passion and purpose,
Yes.
versus a paycheck. It's really not,
Right.
right? And the experience is very different. So that's kind of the story of what was born for me on the heels of, yes, a journey, a processing, allowing myself to get in environments that could be the catalyst for change, allowing myself to hold space and step back when I needed to, allowing myself to heal both physically, internally, externally, and being okay with the pace, and not forcing it, but really flowing.
Yes.
So
Letting it just flow. Ooh.
yeah.
Letting it just flow. Yeah.
So
There's
very
going to need to
cool.
be a part 2 here for sure, because
Yeah.
there's so much more to talk about. So maybe I won't even maybe we won't even say like a proper goodbye. We'll just say to be continued part 2. ... Thank you so much for joining us today on the Use Your Inside Voice podcast. I'm Heather Dawn. We'll see you next Friday and every Friday after that.